This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
I'm of the mindset that there's a lot that we can dream. And I think that we're just on the tip of the iceberg of how things are going to unfold in the next 10 years. And I think quantum computing and this idea of holding space and time and thoughts, I believe that there's something there.
I absolutely love today's guest. And the reason I do is I'd say 50% of the time now, I don't know how it happens. This is the way the world works, but I'll know a guest, I'll know my guest. And 50% of the time you see something that someone's doing that you're just like, I need to meet that person. And I would have felt that way about you anyway. But I got to meet my guest. I got to meet my guests in the absolute right place. And the thing I love about my guests is it's always all things real. We can toggle between personal and professional, and there really is to me only one MJ DePalma, and so pumped. And we've been trying to make this happen for those years.
Maybe
Is that accurate?
longer.
And
Two,
then-
at least.
You're busy. You're busy. It's not me. It's you.
It's not about that. I think it was more about the universe was waiting and marinating for the right moment.
Yeah, well stated. You're such a strategist. Look at you. I'm like, it's you. It was you. No, but you're spot on. And I think the point of today is I want people to really see you and get to know you. And sure, I'm sure we'll talk about Microsoft, and I'm sure we'll talk about the world we're living in. But let's go back to how we actually met. And to be fair to you, I'll start with how I met you, because I don't know if you remember that COVID had just hit. I had gotten the call from the gathering that they wanted me to come up. And, we had all audibled at COVID, right? It was a complete act of resilience for all of us. And they're like, so you're not coming to Canada, but we have this badass production set in LA. And it really was the guys are so good at this. And they're like, can you come up to LA and we're gonna live stream your stuff? And I'm like, whatever, however I can serve, I'm down. They're sure. 2 hours away, I'm in, right? And I remember, when you're doing that, I'm sure you're the same way that I am. You just want to land your thing. And I remember going over and over and over and over and thinking through my commentary, right? And I can't remember, you were even right before me or right after me. I don't remember. I think you were just coming off the stage.
I was before you.
I think you were before me. And I'm like, oh man, look at this. Who is this? Who is this easy on the eyes human that's cool? And what am I doing? I had a baseball cap on, and it was a very transactional, yo, what's up? And you obviously I trusted the gathering enough to know that I wanted to know you, but I also had a job to do. And it was, and then
we were both going in different directions, but saying the energetic, I see you, you're doing the same thing. You must be awesome because you're here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I do really respect the gathering and how they curate and try to make an impact in the world by amplifying some of the work that we all try to do.
Yeah, I think they're really solid at the criteria and the sniff test. And so it wasn't a year later, or maybe even 2 years later, it might have been the next year that we were live. And I remember meeting you. And again, I think it was after my talk. And I just
I know, I went before you.
Again?
After me. And I have to tell you, I did not take more notes than your session, that whole conference. It was,
wow.
You are amazing.
Oh, well, I'm bound to you. It's a two-way street here.
I'm glad I didn't follow you.
No, I appreciate that. Because all we want to do is land. All you want to do is to be seen and to it's this weird thing. It like leaves your brain and there's like you want the knowledge transfer to happen, right? And you've got to just try your best to like, what is life like for someone sitting in the audience and what do they
Exactly.
need to hear? And we're so many people are on autopilot. Like, how do you break through I have 11% of your brain until I get to 14% or 40% or 90%. You have to earn that. So it means so much to me to hear you say that. And then I remember our conversation backstage, and that was like the beginning of it. It's like, all right, I need to stay close to MJ. I want to know what she's up to. And this is like the love story that is like, I will always support you in whatever you're doing. I know you feel the same way about what I'm doing. So let's talk about what you're doing. Like, let's talk about like what's going on in the world of MJ right now. Like, what is life like? Give me a day in the life of MJ.
So I've been with Microsoft for a total of 15 years with 2 different separate tour of duties. All right. So I started out, I've been in the ad business and advertising and marketing my whole career. And I, started when it's 2007. And I had a number of years with Microsoft advertising this whole time. And then I left for a number of years, just I think it was like 2 or 3. And many of my colleagues had come back. We're getting a new CEO and the culture is going to be exactly up your alley. And in part, I left because the culture was not really aligned to what I really, what lit me up, which was being, my authentic self seen. And, when you were talking about speaking to the audience and understanding what are their needs, and kept thinking it's for me, it is about feeling useful. How can I be of service? How can I be useful in my experience to this audience that I get a chance to share something that I've done that they can use that will benefit them? And the same went for my employer. It's kind of like, matchmaking is who I am and what I have to offer a match for them and a match for me. And if it's not, it's okay. It doesn't mean it's bad or good. It just isn't a match. And it ended up becoming more of a match. And so my day in life is really an empowerment role where I seek to uncover strategies that pay off what I believe is a mission for Microsoft that really can be I think it's a guiding star for any company in any industry. If you're around to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more in what you do well, how can you go wrong? You will grow business and you will be of need. And so that mission is designed to be inclusive in the sense that if you are going to empower every person and every organization, you're going to have to understand how to personalize those solutions because of the depth and breadth of problems that humans have are, so vast and so different. And so I'm looking at from an AI standpoint now, because Microsoft advertising actually sits in AI. How do we ensure that we are creating the tools and the features and the enablement opportunities for businesses that advertise in ways that reach and resonate with authenticity and accuracy, the medium we call advertising, that builds trust, brand love, and loyalty. And, there are easy ways of doing that aren't, I would say, as high quality. And then there's harder ways to tackle these problems that take time and a lot of effort. And in the long run, it's going to be a lot better for all of us. It's kind of like the way I see AI is sailing. And if anyone's ever sailed, a few degrees off in the beginning is not a big deal. But if you stay that course for a little while, you're hundreds of miles from the place you really wanted to land. And so, when we think of our opportunity right now, I think it's really critical that we take stock in how we are doing things and what we are, entrusted with great power, with great responsibility comes great power. With great power comes great responsibility. And, that's what I'm really trying to achieve is connecting the dots and making sure that we build businesses both internally and externally with our partners that stay around forever and are in balance with humanity and the planet.
How much of your work, I'm just like listening to you, and there's like all the words I love in there, right? Like in service of others, brand love, right? I couldn't agree with you more about like it's strategy. It's like you're off track and it doesn't feel small at first, but it is. It's like, and you got to be careful where this boat goes. How often do you find, and again, you've been there 15 years now. So like, how much of your work is you're almost like doing a campaign internally
Mm.
to make sure everybody's on the same train here, let alone to in service of your clients and partners on the outside? What percentage of your time goes to internal education / inspiration versus external?
I think less now than it was in the beginning. And I don't know the percentage because my strategy has really changed based on my learnings. And I'll pass these learnings on to anyone listening. Oftentimes, in this journey, we get a lot of folks who, I'm passionate about this area. I'm going to help in this way. And they start to like go down the road and they say, hey, talk to MJ DePalma. And then they pull me in and I consult, right? And one of my biggest learnings is that what gets measured gets managed. At the very end of all the conversations that you can ever have to inspire anyone, whether it's the CEO or a individual contributor on your team, everyone is really rowing towards delivering against requirements for their role. And if it is not connected to those goals, it's going to be a option to do. It'll be an option. And so when we think about how do we influence internally, what are the KPIs that are important to our line of business or to the corporation? And how does what we believe is true accrue to that? And if it doesn't accrue to that, then I was wrong and I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And I know I'm right because all of our research shows, it's really not rocket science when we think about, if you think of what a company's unique value they're bringing to the world. I don't know, it really doesn't matter what kind of product they have or service they have a unique value prop. And they're solving a problem for someone. And how well you understand what that person goes through in that problem scenario really dictates how well you earn that customer for life or not. And you can call that a personalized solution, or you can be inclusive of the things that they need, And so it doesn't matter the vernacular you use. It's, how well do you do the thing you claim you do? And so it's not it is a values case in many ways. It's like, why would you want to serve some people and not others? Why would you want to not earn as many customers as possible? I'm not really sure. And it's really a revenue question to me, as this is not, it is more about earning a connection that's trusted. And once that trust is built, it's a beautiful testament to the belief in your company and your product, that it is what it is. And I'll keep coming back because you understand me. And I think that's what humanity or I think human psychology loves to be, understood. And then the flip side, humanity loves to be of service and of use and of value. And when those two things meet and they equally, fill each other's plates, it's a continued loyal relationship. So it's all about metrics and how does inclusive business impact, or how are we accidentally excluding someone from a product, service, or experience that we offer? Oh, that's how I'm going to grow my business. And oh, by the way, that happens to be inclusive. It doesn't matter to me what we call it, personalizing an experience or being inclusive. I don't want to conflate what is being discussed today on the topic of DE&I, which to me is really about ensuring that you have a perspective of the world in order to build products and services and experiences that solve the breadth and depth and diversity of the human experience when they're trying to figure out what widget to buy, right? And that's all it is. It's not about anything else. It's really that simple.
I feel like you understand me. Personalized is saying you understand me. You've done the work. And it's funny that you're called Microsoft, because it's like, well, shouldn't you have been just called Microsmart? I mean, like, everyone just feels.
I never
like,
heard that, actually.
that's what I'm here for, right? Like, I feel like we don't have a smart problem. Like, I don't think anyone's denying how smart Microsoft is. Like, they have the data, like you said, they've got the metrics, they have the tools. You are smart enough to understand me. And in the lens of courage, this, because we've talked about this before, but we talk about the three levers. There's knowledge, there's faith, and there's action, and you need all three for it to be courageous. So I feel the knowledge there's never a knowledge. I don't sense a knowledge or data problem at Microsoft. But in the spirit of courage, which I think is kind of the right word right now in this tricky time, not just personally, but for businesses too, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you think about courage through the lens of business, how do you see that word applying to your work and to your team?
So my previous boss, a number of bosses ago, Nikki Smith, she had a piece of art outside of her office. And I believe it might have even been a quote from Brene Brown. And it was something to the effect of bravery or courage is fueled by vulnerability. Something to that effect. The vulnerability piece, and to be courageous, you have to identify the thing that is risky. And in order to lean into that, or when you lean into that risk, that's when you display courage. And you can't really read it.
Yeah, I love this. I love that.
Courage is one of those things that's very difficult to have at first. That's why the letter is kind of sketchy and red in the beginning. It's hard to read. And then once you get it, it's like, you begin to feel this momentum. And when we are looking at the kind of world that we're in at the moment, the only thing that comes to mind is our mission to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more, or is it not? And we know it is. And the reason why we have a mission is, and I talked about this at the gathering, the value of purpose is to guide all employee decision-making. Is it going to accrue to the mission, get us closer, or is it going to move us further away? And so when we think about some of these micro decisions that might need to be made in everyday life at work, that's my guiding star. And are we going to lose people? Sometimes when I have conversations as a consultant to our clients, leaders are worried about getting it wrong, and they want to know, how do you navigate that? And again, it's not about being everything to everyone. It's about being true to what you say you are. And when you do that, you will attract those that are aligned with the same. And you might even inspire others to question, like, well, maybe they're onto something. And I really believe we're in a yes. We live in a yes universe, which means, let's say, MJ, you know how to play the piano. I know how to play the piano. Yes, you do. MJ, I don't know how to play the piano. I'm really terrible at it. Yes, you're right. You're terrible. Like, the universe will conspire for you, no matter what it is you are putting out there. And so I don't want to come from a place of fear. I want to come from a place of, there is so much good that we can do. And it's focus on, how do we solve problems and give opportunity. And in turn, the more I be of service, the more it's like a cyclical, it kind of comes back around. So courage is really about, I think, having a clear set of values, and whether it's an individual purpose or a company purpose in which you believe in, it's easier to have that courage in the face of other challenges that come up.
I mean, you got a tattoo of the word on your arm. I mean, and you're clearly, we do these things for a few reasons. One, we so deeply believe in it that we're willing to ink. And or two, we so want to believe, but we honor our humanity, that there's days we're strong and there's days we're less, and it's a good reminder that's always there for you. I love the work that I do because I'm trying to design a life for let's call it what it is, the 10 to 15%, right? Like, who want to go for it. And I love that you started with, I mean, especially with a company as large as yours, like, it starts with clarity. It just starts with the mission. And the amount of times I've said, you cannot see true north on a cloudy night. Like, you can't see true north. If it's a cloudy night, and you should be able to feel it, right? But like, for most people, if I'm on day one and it's cloudy, I don't know what my North Star is. And you can't be courageous when you're cloudy. You just can't. When we go do what we do, we always talk about, like, it's not like a rah-rah thing. It's a system. It's giving you the tools to get clear so you can consistently be an IV drip. And or when you're not there to defend, I mean, how many offices do you have around the world? It's one mission. You don't need permission. You know what the mission is. You should know how to operate off of that mission. So super cool to hear and see. How often have you gone in to a partner and you're like, oh, they don't, it's not their fault. Like, they just haven't nailed the mission. Like, they don't have a clear mission. And is that a weird one for you? Because you're kind of like, do you stay in your lane? You want to help them you want to help them achieve more. You said it, like, hey, we're about achieve. I can see the little greater than sign, by the way, achieve more. But like, you have to want to be helped too. Like, do you go there courageously?
I mean, I have had some workshops that I've led with clients where we take their mission statement, and just like in an English class, we pull it apart and look at, like, who are you trying to serve, and what are the vehicles that you're using to try to do that, and what is the thing you're trying to deliver. And it is, sometimes I find some mission or purpose statements to be like huge paragraph, and it's really difficult to get clarity for your workforce when it's just so obtuse and too much. Like, you're trying to boil the ocean in many ways. There's no clarity. And so we just walk through it, and I don't need to point anything out. Because when we do that exercise, invariably they are wanting to like evaluate what is their mission, how do we actually make it so that we can measure it in a way that is impactful and aligns to what we're trying to do here. And it makes for like a really energizing outcome. You know, my understanding is when Satya Nadella became CEO, that's exactly what he did. Is he was like, we need to reground ourselves, and we're not putting a PC on every desktop anymore. That those days are like long accomplished. We need a new one. And so I think I do ask brands sometimes, you may find that it might be time to like revisit that. And I do believe that things in life in general, they don't last forever. You know, there's always this need for change. And I also believe that in terms of like having a growth mindset is the key to staying in business for 50 years like Microsoft has. We just had our 50th anniversary on April 4th. And when we think about like being on the forefront of AI and just what is happening right now, and the quantum computer chip that we just came out with, that's mind bending on what it can power. And we've been around for 50 years. I think there's something to being able to reevaluate and go, you know what? We need to course correct. This is not, and being willing to be courageous enough to be like, this is not good enough. Or we used to be good. We're no longer good. We need to do something because we have a lot to offer, and we're needing to tune up again, to tune ourselves into the right direction. And I think that's, not always having to be right. You can be wrong. And I actually like this concept. I earned a fellowship at the Garage, which is like an innovation incubation group at Microsoft for 6 months a number of years ago. And one of the things that I learned, it is so great to get a bunch of no's. Like the more no's you get about your idea, the closer to the right yes you are.
I love that.
And so it's not about being a perfectionist and getting it right out of the gate, which I used to be, especially as a teenager. I suffered and finally figured out how to, recover from that mindset. And it's about curiosity and learning and being a learn-it-all and just trying to, be curious, ask questions, and that'll get us, or you or your company or me as an individual, closer to, honestly, like fulfillment and happiness and success and the revenue and all of that.
I feel like you're in a place right now where, you're playing in a seriously professional league, but I don't feel, I'm sure you have your fears, and we can talk about those too, but like you have space where Maslow isn't completely winning. Does that make sense?
In my personal life or in the world? Because
Well, I meant more.
which question are we asking?
Yeah, all of the above. But I meant it first from a professional. I think anytime you're in a job, and like if you're listening to this right now, and take this opportunity on the show right now to audit, really, and don't lie to yourself. Like, are you in Maslow a little bit? Like, do you feel the fear? We all feel the fear, but like, do you feel like you're just the duck, and underneath the surface, you're terrified and you're trying to keep it together? And that's okay if that's what you're feeling, right? That's okay if that's what you're feeling. I don't feel that from you.
It's a weird and interesting time at the moment where it's unprecedented in my lifetime, where I have to ask myself, am I, what's the word? Am I genuinely even, like, I do have some concerns about trends for sure. And at the same time, I do believe that there are a lot of good, smart people that are on this planet. And I do think that I have, there's sometimes I can be in that space where am I spending my time really spinning in reading? And like in today's world, we have to be very conscious about where is our sources of information coming from. And I'm from I'm the daughter of a machinist who installed and fixed newspaper presses. And newspapers, I learned, were protected by the Department of Justice of the United States, that in any given major city, there needed to be two opposing political views of newspapers with op-eds, opinion, so that it could ensure democracy. And now that those newspapers are gone and we have a different way of creating content and news and absorbing it, that to me is like the biggest, challenge and fear of mine, that is people don't take the time to discern, right? And so I reground myself in the classic, what do I have control over? What can I make impact with? And what can I do? And so for me, I think being a voice of reason around this idea that inclusion is nothing but personalization, and it's about growing connections with more people so that you can grow your business. And the more that we ground ourselves that this isn't an us or them, and it's more about it's a we. And to me, that's like really what I think that I can bring to the table. And I do believe that, there's going to be a change. And I think there's going to be a change for good. But sometimes just like any relationship, sometimes things have to get really difficult before anyone's willing to make a change or even look at what's wrong. If I find ourselves or I find myself looking at where we're at and thinking like that's where we're at right now. It will eventually right itself. And there's hope that I really do believe that science and the like water seeks its own level. Science, facts, truth, love is the most powerful combination. I think it's all going to be okay.
Well, as an optimist, I'm happy to hear this. But do you feel like the strategy, because I think there's some Microsoft stuff and then there's some MJ stuff, I'm sure. Do those worlds, is there a helix involved here?
I mean, one of the things that I love about Microsoft is that I've never really felt, since I came back to Microsoft, a need to be anything other than who I am. And I wholeheartedly believe, and this is saying a lot, that Microsoft gave me the gift of finding who I actually am.
Wow. Give me more there.
A lot of times I think we hear of stories of people being an employee of a company and then they may like struggle to be themselves or fight to be themselves. And I feel for them. And in many ways I felt that way, but I felt that way almost in a self-imposed societal construct that I was being and looking like someone that I thought I needed to be and look like to be successful out of this societal construct of what it means to be successful in a big, large corporation. In many ways, that's why I left, because there was a different culture before Satya that was not exactly embracing a growth mindset and not embracing, multiple ways of looking at a problem because everyone has different lived experiences. And there was more of a homogenous approach to solving problems and what it meant to be successful. And so when I came back to Microsoft, there was a genuine leadership team that wanted to ignite this fire of curiosity. And my understanding, it was really born from Satya having a conversation with his wife about their disabled son, who Satya had a disabled son who's now passed away. And my understanding, and he had a very difficult time being a very successful software engineer and in business, to have a son that wasn't, follow in his footsteps. And his wife said, "You need to read this book. It's called Mindset. It's by Carol Dweck." And he started to realize how much the experience of having his son taught him in so many ways that could never have taught him things. And it was this aha moment, this having an open mind, a growth mindset. And so for me, like, I didn't allow myself to explore like who I actually really am and have a growth mindset about myself because I had this self-imposed construct of what I thought success needed to look like. And Microsoft created an environment that actually listened to my ideas. They were upset that I was agreeing so much in meetings. And I didn't really get that concept. Oh, you hired me because you want my ideas and my opinion from my lived experience, not to agree with everyone in the room. Oh, and then it started to like manifest itself in like an expression of who I actually want to be. Where's MJ's voice? Where's MJ's wants? Where's MJ's ideas? Where's MJ's thoughts? Not where's MJ's synthesizing hard drive reflecting what I think everyone wants to see and hear. And so Microsoft created this environment for me to actually discover who I actually am. And it's manifested itself in my personal life too, right? I don't have I have a professional MJ and I have a personal MJ, but they're very much the same person.
Which I love hearing. I mean, we've done over 200 of these now, and I've always selfishly, if I'm maybe vulnerable myself, I love having conversations with people like you because it's like, how can you not learn something and take something away? And the common connection continues to be, we talked about clarity, but we're really talking about truth. We're talking about like what is true to you. And I don't think like it wasn't my fault either when I joined a big New York City Mad Men network that you learn the rule. You're smart enough to learn the rules of that civilization, we'll call it. I mean, it's nation building. They've got a flag and this is the language of those people. And this is the state mannerisms, right? It's nation building. And then you realize, and it usually takes time. It took time for me to realize the best thing I could do is figure out who the heck I was and just continue to be that person and bring that person not just to work, but trip it out everywhere. If you're still listening to the episode, this is landing with you. It's cool to hear that. I think a lot of us, when we think of Microsoft, we don't think of the soft part of Microsoft. We don't think of we just don't go there on the empathy side. Like I said, we go to the smart side. Maybe we do go to the achieve more side. But yeah, what I love hearing from you, MJ, is that they've given you permission to it's almost like curious more, right? Like explore more. There's more than just achieve more. It's all the stuff on the way to achieve more. Although some of us need the tools fast to go do the thing, but I like hearing that there's always been more. And I'm sure this is why you went back in the first place.
Now there's a magic there's a magic for me at Microsoft that is hard to quantify or describe. But the one thing that comes to mind is possibilities. There's infinite possibility, infinite possibility to dream. And the more I'm there, the more I realize how fortunate we are that there is this culture that supports, okay, you have a job to do, and we trust that we hired you for a reason. And you're going to deliver on that. But that does not mean that that's the only thing we want you to do. We also encourage you to follow your passions and figure out what else, do a stretch project, join a hackathon, you know, take a day of learning for yourself, take a mental health day, like whatever it is that you need to make yourself whole and happy, because and purposeful, like how oftentimes we hear Microsoft leaders talk about that is like whatever you're passionate about, how can you make that the intersection uh, in your day-to-day job? And you know, people who get to do that, they stick around and they have a really good time being there. And that's what we want. And that's what I want. I want that for myself. I want that for anyone else. So there is like for me, it is a little bit of a magic thing. And we have people that have to give some props to some storytellers internally about the culture at Microsoft. One of the things that is powerful to me is, and I think you know about this, but the symbol of the ampersand. There was this D ampersand I content internally, a site to learn about diversity and inclusion at Microsoft. And they use the ampersand on purpose because there's the hidden meaning. And so, Ryan, if you and I wrote a book and we did not collaborate, our names would be listed as authors as Ryan and MJ, A&D. Separate, it's signifying we contributed separately. But if we actually collaborated on the content, it would be an ampersand. And so when we think about diversity and inclusion, if we have a diverse set of, people or data, but we're not inclusive, what good is that? And if we're inclusive of a homogenous set of data or people, it's very much less effective as well. We've seen that in the performance of teams and also just the scientific method. The more data, the more diverse data, the better the outcome you might see. So I also, have, where is that? There we go.
There it is.
Ampersand. And I met the woman who uncovered that meaning and told that story internally. And we had a very meaningful moment of realization that I have this tattoo because she did this storytelling that inspired me to do the work that I do. And we talked about nation building. I love flags, by the way. I think flags are a shortcut to brand, to meaning, to conveying information. And it's an art to get that all in a small square.
It's all about belonging. I feel like that's what it's below the neck for sure. Take us home. So when you think about courage, you think about the Courageous podcast. And again, I do not take lightly, and I said it already once this episode, that if someone is still here at the 40-some minute mark.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
You're invested in this. They're curious. They're, maybe they know us from Canada. Maybe they just love your point of view. What do you want to leave them with?
Love is the answer.
Why didn't we start there 40-some minutes ago?
Whatever the question is, the answer is whatever it is. Does it bring you closer to love or further away from love?
I mean, but it's that simple. But why don't we start? It
is that simple.
Why don't we start there? Not we, not the podcast, but I don't understand what happened to us that there has to be this defrosting period, this thawing, I get the way. I mean, look, yeah, I studied it. I get it. I know how we're wired. I know how our system works. But why? How did this happen that we're talking over each other and we're not seeing each other? Because love is the answer.
I don't know the answer to that question. I do find myself easier to express this connection that we have when I'm in person or I'm in visual contact and less like behind words that are typed. And even in text, I will rather do a voice text now to my friends because they can hear the intonation. No, I don't have any friends that have audio challenges, but if I did, thank God we have the written language. But I do like, there's something energetically missing because of too much interface that's just represented by language and words. I have to make a plug for this one thing because it's kind of changed my life in what I believe to be true. We have language, right? We are humans. We communicate with language. However, what if we didn't need language? What kind of ways could we connect and communicate and convey feelings and ideas if we didn't need words and letters to communicate? And a doctor friend of mine said, why don't you listen to the telepathy tapes? It's a whole series, and it is very powerful to understand the autistic world. And I think that the value of the growth mindset and being curious and learning about others unlike ourselves is what happened to me when I listened to the experience of how they communicate. And the more we can get back to our hearts and feeling and seeing each other as the same, we can correct this, I think, and course correct back towards love is the answer.
All right, everyone, get out of here. Get back to love, folks. We got to get back to love. And the telepathy tapes.
It's amazing.
It brings up a whole just red pill, blue pill. We don't have the time.
When we think about quantum computing, let's bring it back to technology. Quantum physics. Quantum physics is nothing but the folding of space and time that two things can be true at the same time. So what if quantum computing or quantum calculations is the same as telepathy? And yeah, blue pill, red pill. But I'm of the mindset that there's a lot that we can dream. And I think that we're just on the tip of the iceberg of how things are going to unfold in the next 10 years. And I think quantum computing and this idea of folding space and time and thoughts without cumbersome language, I believe that there's something there. Yeah, love is the answer.
I feel like as long as we see it as a we and not a me, right? I'm down. And this isn't combating anything you said. I think I think when fear wins, we get selfish. And I think telepathy isn't possible if we're just thinking about ourselves.
Yeah, if we think there's not enough and we don't come from this abundance mindset, then it's all about me. And, and if it's about love and what's for the greater good, I think we'll be in better shape.
Love you, MJ. So
love
happy
you too.
you were
Thank
here.
you so much for this.
Yeah, it's been long overdue. And I need to get up to the Northwest and come see you. We got to figure all that out. We will.
Please visit.
I'm coming to the party.
Yes, for sure. With this mirror ball, wherever.
There it is. I love it. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.